In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a group of naval officers was conducting a routine training exercise. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the calm waters. Lieutenant Ryan Carter stood on the deck of the U.S. Lincoln, his eyes scanning the horizon. He was young but sharp, always paying attention to details others might miss. Today, something unusual caught his eye. On the sonar screen, a large object was moving deep beneath the waves. It was big, much bigger than any submarine he had ever seen, and it was fast, almost too fast to be real. Ryan immediately alerted Captain Laura Hayes, a seasoned leader known for keeping her cool under pressure. She ordered the ship to change course and investigate. As the U.S. Lincoln drew closer to the mysterious object, the crew grew uneasy. The sonar readings were strange, showing shapes and patterns that didn't match anything in their database. When they finally spotted the source of the anomaly, everyone on deck froze. Rising from the depths was a massive warship, sleek and black, with no visible markings or flags. It looked like nothing they had ever encountered before. Captain Hayes gave the order to approach cautiously. Her voice was steady, but inside, she felt a mix of fear and curiosity. What was this thing? Where did it come from? As they got closer, the ship seemed to hum with energy, its surface shimmering faintly as if alive. Then, without warning, a pulse of light shot out from the vessel, hitting the U.S. Lincoln. For a moment, everything went dark. The ship's engines sputtered, lights flickered, and communication systems went dead. Panic spread among the crew, but Captain Hayes quickly regained control. "Stay calm," she said firmly. "We're going aboard." A team was assembled to board the mysterious ship. Ryan volunteered to lead the way, along with Dr. Emily Dawson, a linguist who specialized in ancient languages, and Chief Engineer Daniel Foster, an expert in advanced technology. As they climbed onto the alien vessel, they were struck by how silent it was. There were no signs of life, no movement, no voices, nothing. Just empty corridors lit by a soft, eerie glow. The air smelled metallic, and the walls felt cold to the touch. Ryan noticed strange symbols carved into the walls. They looked like rooms, intricate and unfamiliar. "Emily, take a look at this," he said, pointing to one of the markings. Emily stepped closer, her brow furrowed as she studied the symbols. "I've never seen anything like it," she admitted. "But these patterns, they remind me of ancient scripts I studied, maybe older than anything we know." Daniel, meanwhile, was busy examining the ship's machinery. His eyes widened as he ran his hands over the smooth panels. "This is incredible," he muttered. "The materials, they're not from Earth. And this power source, it's beyond anything we've developed." He tapped a few buttons on a console, and suddenly, holographic displays sprang to life. Maps of stars and planets appeared, but they weren't maps of Earth's solar system. These charts showed distant galaxies, places humans had only dreamed of reaching. As the team explored further, they couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. The ship seemed to breathe, its hum growing louder and softer in waves. Doors opened and closed on their own, and faint whispers echoed through the halls. Ryan stopped in his tracks, his heart pounding. "Did you hear that?" he asked, looking around. Emily shook her head, though her face was pale. "Let's just focus on figuring out what this thing is," she said, trying to sound brave. Back on the U.S. Lincoln, Captain Hayes watched the team's progress through a live feed. She wasn't sure whether to feel amazed or terrified. This ship shouldn't exist. It defied all logic. But here it was, right in front of them. Whatever secrets it held, she knew one thing for certain. Humanity would never be the same again. After the initial shock of discovering the mysterious warship, Captain Laura Hayes knew she had to act quickly. She contacted Admiral James Monroe at Naval Headquarters, reporting everything her team had found so far. The Admiral listened intently, his voice tense as he gave her orders. "Keep this classified," he said firmly. "No one outside your crew can know about this. Not yet." He assigned a small group of specialists to join the investigation, including Dr. Emily Dawson and Chief Engineer Daniel Foster, who were already on board. The atmosphere among the crew was charged with both excitement and fear. Ryan Carter, still processing what he'd seen, couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something far bigger than they could handle. "This isn't just some abandoned ship," he muttered to Emily as they prepared for another round of exploration. "It's alive." Emily nodded but didn't respond. She was too busy studying the symbols etched into the walls, trying to piece together their meaning. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could these markings be clues left behind by whoever built the ship? Or were they warnings? Daniel, on the other hand, was completely absorbed in the ship's technology. He spent hours tinkering with consoles and examining machinery, marveling at how advanced it all was. "If we could figure out how this works," he said excitedly to Ryan, "it could change everything. Space travel, energy production, you name it." But even as he spoke, there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. This ship wasn't human-made, and messing with its systems felt dangerous, like opening a door you might not be able to close again. As days passed, tensions began to rise. Some crew members wanted to leave the ship alone, convinced it was cursed or haunted. Others argued that they had a duty to explore it fully, no matter the risks. Captain Hayes tried to keep everyone focused, reminding them of their mission. But strange things kept happening. Lights would flicker without explanation. Doors would slam shut on their own. And then there were the whispers, soft, indistinct murmurs that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. One evening, while exploring a lower level of the ship, Emily made a startling discovery. Hidden behind a panel was a series of inscriptions accompanied by images that looked like warnings. One image showed a planet exploding, while another depicted shadowy figures standing over fallen armies. "This isn't good," she whispered, snapping photos with her camera. "These aren't just random symbols, they're cautionary tales." When she shared her findings with Ryan and Daniel, the mood grew even more somber. "So, what are you saying?" Ryan asked. "That this thing is dangerous." Emily hesitated before answering. "I'm saying we need to be careful. Whoever built this ship clearly knew things we don't, and they wanted to make sure no one used it recklessly." Despite the growing unease, not everyone shared their caution. Lieutenant Marcus Cole, a stern officer with a reputation for ambition, saw the ship as an opportunity rather than a threat. Working secretly under orders from a shadowy faction within the government, Marcus began tampering with the ship's systems. He believed its technology could give humanity an edge over its enemies, regardless of the cost. When Ryan caught him disabling safety protocols in the engine room, Marcus didn't deny what he was doing. "You don't understand," he snapped. "This isn't about us. It's about survival. If we don't use this ship, someone else will." Ryan reported Marcus's actions to Captain Hayes, but it was too late. By the time she confronted him, Marcus had already gained partial control of the ship's navigation system. In a bold move, he set a course for orbit, leaving the rest of the crew stranded below. As the ship began to ascend, panic spread through the team. "We have to stop him," Ryan shouted. But stopping Marcus wouldn't be easy. He had crossed a line, and now they were racing against time to regain control before the ship slipped beyond their reach entirely. Ryan Carter couldn't believe what was happening. Marcus Cole had betrayed them all, taking control of the mysterious warship and setting it on a course for orbit. The rest of the crew was left scrambling to figure out how to stop him. But as chaos unfolded, Ryan stumbled upon something that made his blood run cold. While searching a deeper section of the ship, he found a large chamber filled with strange pods lining the walls. Each pod contained a humanoid figure suspended in some kind of stasis. Their bodies looked almost human, but there were subtle differences: elongated limbs, translucent skin, and faintly glowing veins. Ryan stared in shock, unsure if he should call for help or keep quiet. Before he could decide, one of the pods began to glow brighter. A low hum filled the room, and the glass covering slid open. A figure stepped out slowly, blinking against the light. It was tall and thin, with calm, otherworldly eyes. "Who are you?" Ryan managed to ask, his voice trembling. The being tilted its head, studying him carefully. After a moment, it spoke in halting, broken English. "I am Kel," it said softly, "of the Veil." Kale explained that his people were explorers from a distant galaxy who had crash-landed on Earth thousands of years ago. They had hoped to repair their ship and return home, but over time, they grew weak and died. The ship, however, remained intact, powered by an energy source tied to advanced quantum mechanics. Kale himself had been placed in stasis, waiting for someone to awaken him, or perhaps destroy the ship entirely. As Kale spoke, Ryan listened intently, trying to process everything. "Why didn't your people leave behind instructions? Warnings?" he asked. Kel's expression darkened. "We did," he replied. "But humans often ignore warnings when power is within reach." He gestured toward the symbols etched into the walls. "Your linguist has seen them. Did she understand?" Ryan thought of Emily Dawson and her theories about the inscriptions. "She's working on it," he said. "But we don't have much time. One of our own is trying to take control of the ship." Kale frowned deeply. "This vessel was never meant for conquest," he warned. "Its weapons can devastate entire planets. If misused, it will bring ruin, not just to Earth, but to countless worlds." His words sent a chill down Ryan's spine. He realized Marcus didn't fully grasp what he was dealing with, and neither did the shadowy faction backing him. Determined to stop Marcus, Ryan brought Kale back to the main group. At first, Captain Hayes and the others were wary of the alien, but Kale's calm demeanor helped ease their fears. "We must act quickly," Kale urged. "The longer this ship remains active, the greater the risk." Dr. Emily Dawson worked closely with Kale, using his knowledge to decode more of the ship's systems. Together, they discovered a central failsafe mechanism designed to shut down the vessel completely. But activating it wouldn't be easy. It required entering a heavily irradiated area deep inside the ship. The radiation levels were lethal, making it a suicide mission. Arguments erupted among the team about who should go. Daniel Foster insisted it should be him, citing his technical expertise. Captain Hayes argued that it was her responsibility as leader. But Ryan stepped forward, silencing everyone. "It has to be me," he said firmly. "I've already been exposed to parts of the ship. I know my way around better than anyone else." No one liked the idea, but they knew Ryan was right. As he prepared to enter the dangerous zone, Kale approached him. "You do not have to do this," the alien said quietly. "There may be another way." Ryan shook his head. "If we don't stop Marcus now, nothing else matters. This ship can't fall into the wrong hands." With a heavy heart, Ryan entered the reactor core, ready to face whatever awaited him. The air was thick with heat and static electricity, and the hum of the ship seemed louder here, almost deafening. Lights flickered erratically, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Ryan took a deep breath, focusing on the task ahead. He had to succeed, for humanity's sake. Failure wasn't an option. Ryan Carter moved cautiously through the reactor core, every step feeling heavier than the last. The air was thick and hot, making it hard to breathe. Faint whispers echoed around him, as if the ship itself was trying to talk him out of what he was about to do. His head throbbed from the radiation exposure, but he pushed forward, focusing on the mission. He couldn't let Marcus win, not when so much was at stake. The central console loomed ahead, glowing with a pulsating blue light. Ryan approached it slowly, his hands trembling as he reached for the controls. Kale had explained how to activate the failsafe, but Ryan knew there was no guarantee it would work. The ship's systems were alien, unpredictable. If he made one wrong move, the entire vessel could self-destruct, or worse, remain under Marcus's control. As Ryan typed in the sequence Cal had given him, strange images began flashing across the console's screen. They showed distant planets, swirling galaxies, and massive explosions. It was like the ship was showing him its past, or maybe its potential future. For a moment, Ryan hesitated. What if Kel was wrong? What if shutting down the ship wasn't the answer? But then he remembered Marcus's cold determination, his willingness to risk everything for power. Ryan clenched his jaw and kept going. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, forming words that Ryan could almost understand. "Stop," they seemed to say. "You don't know what you're doing." Ryan shook his head, trying to block them out. "I'm not falling for that," he muttered under his breath. But the voices persisted, growing more insistent. They promised him strength, knowledge, even immortality, if only he would abandon the mission and join Marcus. Ryan closed his eyes, fighting back the doubt creeping into his mind. He thought about Captain Hayes, Emily, Daniel, and the rest of the crew who trusted him to fix this. He thought about Earth, unaware of the danger lurking above. Most of all, he thought about the oath he'd taken as a naval officer to protect humanity, no matter the cost. With a deep breath, he pressed the final button. The room erupted in chaos. Alarms blared, lights flashed wildly, and the hum of the ship grew deafening. Ryan stumbled backward, shielding his face as sparks flew from the console. Through the chaos, he heard a loud crackling sound, followed by silence. The ship's systems went dark, plunging the reactor core into near total blackness. Ryan collapsed to the ground, exhausted and barely conscious. Meanwhile, high above the Earth, Marcus Cole struggled to maintain control of the warship. He had assumed command of the bridge, believing himself untouchable. But as the failsafe activated, the ship's systems began to fail. Panels went dead, engines sputtered, and gravity fluctuated wildly. Marcus cursed under his breath, frantically trying to override the shutdown. "No," he shouted, slamming his fists against the controls. "This can't happen." Desperate to escape, Marcus ran to the nearest pod bay and climbed into an escape shuttle. As he launched himself away from the ship, the warship's self-destruct mechanism activated. A brilliant flash of light lit up the sky as the vessel exploded, obliterating any trace of its existence. Marcus watched in horror from his pod, realizing too late that he had underestimated the ship and Ryan. Back on Earth, news outlets reported the incident as a tragic accident during routine testing. No one mentioned the mysterious warship or the events that led to its destruction. Admiral Monroe ensured the truth remained buried, classifying all records related to the mission. To the public, it was just another failed experiment. Ryan, meanwhile, lay unconscious in the reactor core until Cale found him. The alien carried him out of the wreckage, careful not to harm him further. When Ryan finally woke up, he was weak but alive. Cale stood nearby, watching him silently. "You did well," the alien said softly. "Your world is safe. For now." Ryan nodded, though he felt anything but triumphant. Too much had been lost, and too many questions remained unanswered. Cale knelt beside him. "My people are gone," he said, "but their legacy lives on, in you. Remember what you've seen here. Learn from it." With those final words, Cale left, disappearing into the ocean depths. Ryan watched him go, knowing their paths would never cross again. As he sat there, battered but alive, he realized the true weight of what had happened. The warship shouldn't exist, but it did. And while it was gone now, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's encounter with forces beyond its understanding was only beginning. Weeks passed after the destruction of the mysterious warship, but life didn't return to normal for Ryan Carter or the rest of the crew. The incident lingered in their minds like a ghost they couldn't shake. Captain Laura Hayes was summoned to Washington, D.C., to testify before Congress about what had happened. She walked into the hearing room with her head held high, knowing she had to tread carefully. Too much was at stake. The committee members listened intently as Hayes recounted the events, though her story was heavily edited. She described the discovery of an experimental vessel that malfunctioned during testing, leading to its eventual destruction. There was no mention of aliens, advanced technology, or Marcus Cole's betrayal. To the public, it was just another naval exercise gone wrong. A costly mistake, but nothing extraordinary. Still, some officials weren't satisfied. One senator leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Are you telling us there's nothing left of this ship? No evidence, no data recovered?" Hayes met his gaze without flinching. "That's correct, sir," she replied. "The explosion destroyed everything. All we have are our reports and lessons learned." While Hayes handled the political fallout, Ryan returned to civilian life, struggling to adjust. He rented a small apartment near the coast, spending most days staring out at the ocean. The memories haunted him, the eerie hum of the ship, the glowing rooms, Cal's final words. He couldn't stop thinking about how close humanity had come to disaster. What if Marcus had succeeded? Would Earth have been ready for the consequences? Dr. Emily Dawson tried to help Ryan process everything. She threw herself into her work, publishing groundbreaking research on ancient languages and symbols. Though she never mentioned the warship directly, her findings drew inspiration from the alien inscriptions she'd studied aboard the vessel. Her papers gained attention in academic circles, sparking debates about extraterrestrial contact throughout history. But when asked about her sources, Emily simply smiled and said, "Sometimes the past holds more secrets than we realize." Chief Engineer Daniel Foster also struggled to move on. He spent hours sketching designs based on the ship's technology, though he knew he could never build anything like it. The materials, the energy source, it was all beyond human capability. Still, he couldn't let go of the dream. Late at night, he'd sit alone in his workshop, tinkering with gadgets and wondering what might have been. As for Marcus Cole, his name was erased from official records. The shadowy faction that had sent him vanished without a trace, leaving behind only rumors. Some believed he died in the explosion. Others whispered that he escaped and went underground, waiting for another chance to seize power. Either way, no one heard from him again. Ryan eventually decided to leave the military altogether. Haunted by the mission, he dedicated himself to studying ancient civilizations, hoping to uncover clues about Cal's people. He and Emily formed an unlikely partnership, traveling to remote archaeological sites and piecing together fragments of forgotten history. Together, they became guardians of a secret too big for the world to handle. Yet, one evening, as Ryan sat in his study poring over old maps, something caught his eye. A package had arrived in the mail, addressed to him in plain handwriting. Inside was a shard of metal engraved with familiar runes, the same symbols he'd seen on the warship. Beneath it lay a note written in Cal's handwriting. Asterisk, "We watch. We wait. Be ready." Asterisk. Ryan stared at the message, his heart pounding. He realized then that the universe was far stranger and far more dangerous than anyone imagined. Humanity wasn't alone, and forces far greater than Earth's understanding were still out there, watching silently. For now, the warship was gone, but Ryan knew the legacy of its creators would endure, and someday, perhaps sooner than anyone expected, humanity would face them again. Years went by, and the story of the mysterious warship faded into legend. Most people forgot about it entirely, dismissing it as a wild tale made up by sailors with too much time on their hands. Conspiracy theorists occasionally brought it up, speculating about secret government experiments or hidden alien technology, but their claims were met with skepticism. Scientists debated the possibility of interstellar travel, while world leaders quietly searched for any trace of the ship's advanced systems. But nothing concrete ever surfaced. For Ryan Carter, however, the memory of the warship never faded. He spent his days researching ancient civilizations, driven by the hope of finding more clues about Cal's people. The shard of metal engraved with runes that he received in the mail became his most prized possession. He kept it locked away in a small wooden box, pulling it out only when he needed a reminder of what was at stake. Emily Dawson stayed by his side, her fascination with extraterrestrial languages growing stronger with each passing year. Together, they formed a quiet alliance, determined to protect humanity from forces it wasn't ready to confront. Their work took them to remote corners of the globe, desert ruins, jungle temples, and icy tundras. Each discovery brought them closer to understanding the truth. They found carvings and artifacts that matched the symbols from the warship, scattered across different cultures and time periods. It was as if Cal's people had visited Earth long ago, leaving behind traces of their presence without ever fully revealing themselves. Ryan often wondered why they had come and why they had left. Despite their progress, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Late at night, he would wake up suddenly, convinced he'd heard faint whispers just outside his window. When he looked, there was never anything there. Emily noticed his unease but didn't press him. She had her own moments of doubt, times when she questioned whether they were chasing answers or inviting trouble. Meanwhile, governments around the world continued their covert efforts to uncover remnants of the warship's technology. Some succeeded in recovering fragments, though none understood how to use them. These discoveries sparked new rivalries, with nations racing to unlock the secrets of the alien vessel. Rumors spread of weapons programs based on reverse-engineered designs, though no one could confirm their existence. The potential for conflict loomed larger than ever. One evening, as Ryan and Emily reviewed their latest findings, a knock came at the door. It was unexpected. They lived far from town, and visitors were rare. Ryan opened the door cautiously, only to find a man in a dark suit standing on the porch. "Mr. Carter," the man said, flashing a badge. "We need to talk." The man introduced himself as Agent Lewis, part of a special task force investigating unusual phenomena. He explained that reports of strange sightings had been increasing. Lights in the sky, unexplained disappearances, and odd disturbances near underwater trenches. "We believe these incidents might be connected to certain events you were involved in," he said carefully. "Your expertise could be invaluable." Ryan exchanged a glance with Emily. They both knew this moment would come eventually. Still, agreeing to help meant stepping back into a world they'd tried so hard to leave behind. After a long pause, Ryan nodded. "If this is about protecting people," he said, "then we'll do what we can." Agent Lewis handed them a folder filled with classified documents and photos. Among them was an image of a massive structure resting on the ocean floor, a ship eerily similar to the one they'd destroyed years ago. Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. "This shouldn't exist," he whispered. But deep down, he knew better. The warship had been a warning, not an anomaly. Humanity's encounter with the unknown was far from over. As the three of them discussed next steps, Ryan couldn't help but think of Cal's final words. Asterisk, "We watch, we wait." Asterisk, whatever was coming, it was clear that Earth wasn't prepared. And this time, there might not be a failsafe to save them. As weeks turned into months, Ryan Carter and Emily Dawson worked closely with Agent Lewis and his team, piecing together the growing puzzle of strange events across the globe. The reports were unsettling. Ships vanishing without a trace near deep-sea trenches, glowing objects descending silently from the sky, and unusual disturbances in areas where ancient ruins had been discovered. Each clue pointed to one conclusion: humanity was being watched. The image of the second warship on the ocean floor weighed heavily on Ryan's mind. It looked almost identical to the first vessel, but something about it felt different, more menacing. What if this isn't just leftovers from Cal's people? Emily asked one night as they pored over maps and data. What if someone else is out there? Someone who doesn't want peace? Ryan didn't have an answer, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were dealing with something far bigger than they understood. The symbols etched into the artifacts they collected began to appear more frequently in their research, on cave walls, buried beneath cities, even carved into stone tablets hidden in forgotten tombs. Whoever these beings were, they had left their mark everywhere, waiting for someone to notice. Agent Lewis grew increasingly concerned as well. His superiors weren't interested in caution. They wanted results. Secretly, nations were scrambling to recover pieces of alien technology, hoping to gain an edge over their rivals. Weapons programs based on reverse-engineered designs were already underway, though no one knew how stable or dangerous they truly were. The world was teetering on the brink of chaos, and Ryan feared it wouldn't take much to push it over. One day, while diving off the coast of Japan, Ryan and Emily made a startling discovery. A team of researchers had uncovered another artifact, a metallic sphere covered in glowing runes. When touched, the sphere emitted a low hum, projecting holographic images into the air. The images showed star systems, planets, and vast fleets of ships moving through space. It wasn't clear whether these were records of past events or warnings of what was to come. But one thing was certain: Earth was not alone. Back at their makeshift lab, Ryan studied the sphere carefully. He noticed patterns in the projections, specific constellations and coordinates that matched locations mentioned in ancient texts. "These aren't random," he said, pointing to a cluster of stars. "They're guiding us somewhere." Emily nodded, her eyes wide with both excitement and fear. "If we follow them, we might find answers, or we might walk straight into danger." Despite the risks, Ryan decided they had no choice. They shared their findings with Agent Lewis, who reluctantly agreed to fund an expedition. A small team was assembled, including scientists, engineers, and military personnel. Their mission was simple yet daunting: locate the source of the signals and determine whether humanity faced a threat or an opportunity. The journey took them to a remote region of the Pacific Ocean, miles away from any landmass. As they approached the coordinates, the water below began to shimmer unnaturally, as if alive. Suddenly, a massive structure rose from the depths, an enormous ship, sleek and black, humming with energy. It was larger than the first warship, its surface adorned with intricate patterns that pulsed faintly in the sunlight. Ryan felt a mix of awe and dread as he stared at the vessel. This wasn't just a relic, it was a message. The runes along its hull glowed brightly, spelling out words in a language Emily recognized instantly. "It says, 'Choose wisely,'" she whispered. Before anyone could react, the ship opened a hatch, revealing a beam of light stretching down toward the water. Standing at the edge of the light was a figure, tall, thin, and familiar. It was Cale. His expression was unreadable as he extended a hand, inviting them aboard. Ryan hesitated, looking back at Emily and the others. "We don't know what's waiting for us inside," he said quietly. "But if we don't go now, we may never get another chance." Taking a deep breath, Ryan stepped forward, followed by Emily and the rest of the team. As they entered the ship, the hatch closed behind them, sealing their fate. Whatever happened next would change everything, for better or worse. The universe had spoken, and humanity had answered the call.